Happy Friday, Miami. This is Buy, Sell, Hold Miami, a real estate podcast. I'm Peter Zalewski, condo consultant, expert witness, founder of the Miami Condo Investing Club. Joined here by my partner, my co-host, the moderator, Daniel Hernandez at Compass Real Estate in Coconut Grove. He does single-family houses as well as condos. Daniel, how am I looking?
You look great. You look relaxed. Is something in your eye, Pete?
I can't see what I look like. I got an eye infection. As a result, I don't have my contacts in. So if I am squinting and I'm looking long in a tooth, it had nothing to do with age. It has to do with the contacts, and I got a little bit of an issue. So if I'm squinting, that's why.
You know what happened? You went to wash your hands in Mary's Coin Laundry and you put your contacts back in. That's what it was.
Exactly. Exactly. I got to lay off with those Cuban sandwiches. After our conversation last week with former journalist and
That was
current candidate,
great.
District 27, running for Congress, going to represent Florida down here in the Miami area. We were talking about the Cuban sandwiches. I got so excited on the way back. I stopped at Mary's. I had a sandwich, and now I got the eye infection.
You
There's
got
no
you.
connection between Mary's and the eye infection. Nothing like that. Probably has to do with some other stuff I was doing,
No,
but I
do
don't want to
do
disclose.
do your own research over there at the health inspector's office. I'm sure Mary Coin's Laundry is fine. I haven't been there in forever, but
Top notch.
it is top
A
notch.
lot of turnover.
If you're just joining us for the first time today, Buy, Sell, Hold Miami. And what this is Peter and I throw back some topics week over week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We're getting a little close to showtime. Friday, we got to pick the topics. And we landed on 5 super duper topics for you today. Almost every story this week, Peter, is really over about power and control over Miami real estate. So we got a lot of pizzazz going on. It's who controls votes, who controls zoning, who controls land, who controls the money. And at every point, someone's trying to take the steering wheel away from somebody else. So if you're just joining us for the first time today, at the end of each topic, we're either going to buy because we agree with the topic, we sell because we don't agree with the statement, or we hold because we don't know, and we're just going to sit back and watch. So the first one we're talking about today, Peter, is about those votes. So over there, and I'm gonna take us on a little flyover, and we're gonna take a look at the club at Brickell Bay Drive. So Brickell Bay Drive's an interesting building. It's one of those short-term rental building, Peter. Roughly 543 of the 643 units. So they're talking about a big building here, and this is the that yellow highlighted building that you folks can see on your screen, and that is an Airbnb building, Airbnb friendly. So you can go be an entrepreneur, rent out, short-term rental. You get a little property management company, make a little cash or not. But the reason why we're talking about this is because the 8-term president, who, by the way, runs 6 Airbnbs in this building under the host name Mr. Wonderful, not going to say his name. You guys can look him up if you want. He just got run out of office, Peter.
He got run out of. Has the vote already occurred? Has the state
Well,
of Florida already verified the votes?
yeah, so on June 22nd, a state monitor, because they have to do that for these condo boards now, a state monitor sat in the social room and FaceTimed owners and asked if signatures on their ballots were real. That's what it's come to. And here's the spoiler, Peter. A lot of them weren't. A lot of them were fake votes. So he documented 9 forged ballots, 17 that managers couldn't validate, 25 showed up on the same day with the same postmark. New board president Maria Borras, congratulations, by the way. You got some work cut out for you, because it wasn't just this election where owners were throwing their arms up. They claimed that last year there was fraud, and they claimed that there was a June 8 vote for the pool deck project and a leasing bylaw change had fraud. Same handwriting across dozens of ballots. One owner's name was literally misspelled. I mean, I would have misspelled my own name. You can't make this shit up.
Well, let's deal with that, but let's give everybody a little bit of history so we kind of know where we're coming from with this building. First and foremost, this is a Tibor Hollow building. The late Tibor Hollow, the gentleman who put up the Omni, the gentleman who owns that piece of dirt right over there by the Southeast Financial Center, the one that's taken forever and ever and ever to come down where it had all the graffiti on it. He's the one who built the Panorama, the 80 plus story building, right over there by Ken Griffin, Ken Billions of Citadel. Tibor Hollow's the one who sold old man Griffin the dirt so he could go ahead and put up his $1 billion.
Right.
Whoops. $2.5 billion project. What was interesting about the club at Brickell Bay, they made it short-term rental friendly way before that was a thing. This tower went up probably somewhere about 2005, 2006 or so, and it was built for efficiency. It was built to make money. It was built to such a point when the market unraveled during the Great Recession. We were showing units in there. You'd walk in there and you would see a blow-up mattress and a bunch of clothes hanging, and these were realtors who
Living
had
in the units?
REOs, bank-owned units. They were staying in these places. This is the building where supposedly, and I never saw it, a lot of pornography, which is no longer allowed in the state of Florida unless you register. I read a lot of porn was shot in this building. This building was the top 3 foreclosures in all of the great state of Florida, 67 counties. This was top 3 with Jade Brickell, as well as the View or the VU, which is just a little bit down the street. So this building is notorious. This building has a reputation. This building, when the market's going up and hotel rates are going up, this is a great place to be in. But when it pulls back, this is a building where you got a lot of, let's just say a lot of people kind of moving in, moving out. A lot of homeowners don't necessarily like it. Am I shocked by allegations? No, not necessarily. If you remember, go back a year ago, right across the street, 1050, 1060. Other allegations about a condo board president doing some shady things. The state gets involved. So, at the end of the day, these are big budgets that condo board members are running. They're not getting paid. It's taking a lot of time. They're getting a lot of grief. I was on the condo board. You get in the elevator, everybody's busting your chops. You go to the store, they're busting your chops. You go anywhere, you're always getting that. So as a result, some people do some stuff, and then once they kind of get into power and they kind of know who's who, it's amazing how they get their bathrooms renovated. And I'm not accusing or alleging anything here, but why would you want a job that is a burden, that you're constantly criticized? Nobody likes you. You get in the elevator, it's a pain. Why would you go to certain steps in order to win election over and over and over?
Because your cousin Paquito's got a janitorial service company.
I don't know what it is, but to me, as being a former board member, I would not want to be there 8 consecutive terms. That is just mind-boggling. Somebody's got to tell me why I would be incentivized in order to hold that position. And then to allegedly do what you were talking about to maintain the seat. Something's not adding up, and usually when you can't understand what's going on, you don't have all the information.
It's gotten so bad, Peter, that Florida finally put its teeth to it. Forging a condo ballot, I just looked it up, is now prosecutable as a third-degree felony forgery, so it's 5 years, $5,000. And the 2024 condo HOA reform package added criminal liability for bad boards, mandatory board education, 7-year record retention, and they actually hired people to the DDPR, which is the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, to actually enforce this stuff. I mean,
but at the time they hired it, they hired like 60 people. It was a very small number.
60 people for what? 4,400 condo associations here?
No, for the entire state of Florida.
Right.
In South Florida, yeah, there's an ombudsman. You got a problem, you call the ombudsman. From what I'm told, a year or two later, you're going to hear back. So there's so many complaints out there. Basically, you're kind of pissing in the wind, is what I've been told when you try to pursue that route. What's likely to happen, Daniel, I wouldn't be surprised if you see some lawsuits coming down the pike one way or another. Now, granted, there's probably going to be insurance covering coming from the association. So if you go ahead and you sue the association, guess who's paying for it? You are, in the form of a special assessment or some sort of added to your maintenance fee. So this is really a catch-22 for people living in this particular building. And the other issue is, now that it's been outed, now that the light's been turned on, and allegedly this stuff was going on and people could see the roaches, now it gets a bad reputation, just like 1050, 1060 did right across the street when NBC News and others all reported about sort of shenanigans. So, I don't know how you win either way being in that building, unless you're a distressed buyer. You might use that to your advantage, trying to negotiate down the seller.
We might have to look into what the trailing 12 months of sales were in this building. And then maybe we look at it in like 6 months to see if this really did anything or really moved the needle to values in the building. It'd be something to look at around Christmas time.
I would tell you from my perspective, Tibor Hollow put that project up probably 20 years ago or so. And then he followed sometime thereafter with a project called Opera Tower. Opera Tower is located over there right by Margaret Pace Park. And it's kind of like what he tried with the club at Brickell Bay. That, to my,
Wasn't
in my
wasn't
opinion,
that was that Kodzie or was that Hollow?
no, no, that was Hollow. Hollow
That
did the
was Hollow.
club, and then he also did Opera Tower, which is nowhere near the Opera Tower. It's the one right there across from Margaret Pace Park, right where 17th or 18th Terrace sort of
Yeah, where the
splits.
Publix is.
Yeah, yeah, right by the Publix. Yeah, and I think he perfected the model there in Opera Tower, but he started off with the club. And remember, everybody, Ken Griffin, old man Griffin, where he's putting up his office tower. Tibor Hollow at the time was going to put up 2 condo towers there, and before that, it was a Brazilian developer who was going to be putting up some towers there. So this area's got a lot of history. Tibor have left his fingerprints all around there, and if memory serves me correct, there's a park named after him right down the street on Brickell on the west side, not very far from where Mr. Raskin, Andrew Raskin's putting up his Colette. Colette, I think I'm
He
saying
just
it
had a
correctly.
he had a bulk buy. He had not a bulk buyer, but a single individual come in and take out 4 units from there for 15 million last week.
I did see that. So it all kind of connects together. But anyways, legendary building, porn, REO agents living in there during a downturn. And one of the buildings, why, if you go into a condo on Brickell Avenue and they take your photograph when you're signing in, because they had to crack down on all of the people squatting in those buildings during the Great Recession. So just a little bit of trivia, but I think it's par for the course for the club of Brickell Bay. If you can get yourself a good price, you're probably going to do well because you got the ability to rent it. And Tibor Hollow was ahead of his time, and their units are very efficient, although the ceilings, to me, a little bit low.
It's not unique though, Pete. So, 2016 Miami Herald investigation found that at least 30% of condo communities in Dade, regulated by DBPR, we'll call them DeBeeper, had been subject of complaints or active investigations for election fraud or irregularities.
And
I mean, this happens every freaking day here. This is just the one that the news decided to report on. I mean, the Herald's been all over this all week.
that's right. Well, it's a sexy story, especially coming out of Surfside 5-year anniversary. And as you mentioned, this criminal aspect to condo board members, that's something new. That is a post Surfside legislative move made up by the boys and the girls up in Tallahassee. Before it wasn't criminal; it was always like civil, and there was other things. Now they actually supposedly have some teeth in it. Let's see the first person get prosecuted on it, though. I'm not aware of anybody actually, seeing any kind of jail time or anything related to that. Although there's been a couple examples, but definitely a project to watch, and also lessons to be learned if you are going to be buying into a condo. You got to know who's on the association. You got to know how it's run, and what I would tell you, almost if there's longevity, you almost got to wonder why is one person able to control it so long, and are
Or
they
why
running
would
it
they
with an
want
iron
to?
fist?
That's what from everything you just said. I mean, I could be criminally liable. Why bother?
Well, and that's the thing. Well, because remember, Surfside's all about transparency. Transparency on the information and information share with unit owners as well as prospective buyers, as well as transparency on the studies, the inspections of the building. So they're trying to bring it out. And I would venture to guess this is the first of many, especially as people get hit with maintenance fees and special assessments. And they say, whoa, 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 whoa. Why were we spending all this money? Why are we fixing up the pool if we just fixed it a couple years ago? This is ultimately where it's kind of going. And like you said, Daniel, what is the incentive to go ahead and sit on a board when it's a voluntary role? You're not getting anything but a bunch of grief and maybe some free valet stickers if you got some buddies and guests coming by.
So all of this to say, folks, if you're buying a condo in Miami, pull the meeting minutes. By the statute, they have to provide you with their meeting minutes. Pull them. Look at it. Look at the turnouts. Who controls the proxies? Is it an owner-occupied building or is it an Airbnb investment vehicle? The good news, as we mentioned at the beginning of this topic, the state will now send a monitor, like a real official buttoned-up person, and the state attorney will take a forgery complaint. So you're not powerless as you were 10 years ago, but you have to do your research and you have to organize.
You have to organize, and you also have to probably be proactive because I'm sure the state will get involved, but they're jammed up with other things. So I don't really think that would be a priority based on everything I've been told by people who've complained to the state entities, including the local ombudsman.
So, Pete, Can you spell fiduciary without fraud? Literally. I mean, just look at the word.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult. It's kind of difficult. Or you could call it a Miami hustle, allegedly.
Alleged Miami hustle. I'm a buy.
Oh yeah, no, I'm a buy. There's a lot more of this going on. It's just, it's a Warren Buffett quote. You don't know who's swimming naked till the tide goes out. Now that where everybody's starting to get hit with these maintenance fees and do all the work, we're going to be hearing about a lot more of this.
So, moving along, the Hard Rock lease is the beginning of a domino effect at Bayside. So, for anybody who isn't following the news, Hard Rock Cafe is leaving Bayside after 30 years, and 100 jobs, unfortunately, are going with it. We all learned about it because they had to file what's called a WARN notice. WARN is shorthand for, I had it written down here, but the window closed. But effectively, it's a piece of it's a federal mandate that if you have more than 100 employees, you have to let them know when there's going to be mass layoffs. If you're closing a factory, you have to give them 60 days notice so that they can figure it out. And so we learned of this because of this WARN notice that was sent out, and the city will not be renewing the Hard Rock lease. Why is this important? Well, because the Hard Rock Cafe is way over yonder. If we look over here at the screens, let's take a look. And what a spot, Pete. What a spot. And Hard Rock sits within, and by the way, it's worth mentioning, Hard Rock Cafe, same owners as Hard Rock, the Seminole casinos, the Hard Rock cafes all over the world, the Hard Rock hotels. The Seminoles own all of it, Pete. Right?
Very impressive. Yep. They got all that gambling money coming in, then they went and bought out
and
the
now
Hard
they got
Rock
the
brand.
Hard Rock bet. So if you look at this red highlighted section here, that's Bayside for anybody who doesn't know anything about Miami. And Bayside is quite the interesting swath of land. So it's a JV by New York's Ashkenazi Acquisition in Brookfield, the mall folks. And they have this city lease, this ground lease, Peter, till 2060. So quite a bit more time. And then they got options out to 2113. You and I might not be alive, and maybe they're potentially will be flying cars by then, but only time will tell. But what's going to happen to this little place here? Yeah, they have a ground lease, but is this the highest and best use? Is t-shirt shops and Victoria's Secret and Go Fast Boat tourist attractions the highest and best use for this? What's going on over here in Bayside, Peter?
I'm really kind of wondering about that because if you think about Hard Rock, the Seminole Indian tribe, which has the massive resorts out there off Griffin Road in Western Broward County, not far from a lot of the my favorite roti and Jamaican patty joints, but that's a different story. But the Seminoles, they have tried, and there's been attempts to try to get you know how a bank has a headquarters and then it has branches. There's been
Sure.
attempts by some groups that have casinos to try to get like a satellite.
Oh, like a little
Why
satellite
haven't
casino?
why haven't the Seminoles? I mean, they're politically active. They've gotten the exclusivity on any kind of online gambling, and I'm not a gambling expert, but I've just read about it. I just wonder why they would not have tried to parlay their betting license and go ahead and try to turn this into a branch. Like for instance, there was an attempt to bring in legalized gambling in the Edgewater
Genting.
area, right over there. Yeah, well, the Genting, yeah, around the old Miami Herald site, but also too, Crescent Heights was trying to do it with a site that's caddy corner from Starbucks, probably about 5-10 years ago. So it's kind of surprising the amount of people coming through Bayside. The Chamber of Commerce types will always tell you it's one of the most popular places visited in all of South Florida. Every single time somebody comes to town, they go out there to check out Bayside, and there's been a lot of money invested into renovating Bayside. You can go there, listen to music, suck down some pina coladas, some Cuba Libres, whatever you want to drink, go on a boat ride, do everything, go to the restaurants. So it surprises me that they would bail out. I'm really perplexed, especially given the fact you got the Ferris wheel, you got everything going on with the amphitheater, which is right over there, which, by the way, a lot of people watching the FIFA World Cup, they're all piling in right there. So this, to me, doesn't really make a lot of sense. And what that means is there's probably something we don't know. There's probably some sort of deal in the works or something's happening as to why Hard Rock has not stepped forward and renewing their lease. It's mind-boggling.
Well, they were arrears on rent during the pandemic. The city in Hard Rock, that particular location, they've been at they've been butting heads for quite a few years. Pete, can you tell us about and in my looking back at this, what was that observation deck that they were supposed to put on this pier here?
So what it was going to be, it was going to look like if we're talking about the same one, it was
The
going to
ski
look like a
slope.
bobby. If it was going to look like a bobby pin, if anybody remembers a bobby pin, like maybe your mother had, or maybe you wear, I don't know, whatever. Some of the guys are, I'm speaking to the guys. Some of the guys have the buns going or something, like a bobby pin. So it went up and then and then it would come down. So that was supposed to go up right
This
there
thing.
next to the Hard Rock. Yes, yeah, like the big bobby pin in the sky. And it was gonna be a tourist attraction. You could take a ride all the way up to the top, and then it would come down really fast, kind of like what you see over. I think Universal has one of those up in Orlando. Ultimately, it was a failure, and instead they put in place the Ferris wheels because the Ferris wheels really sort of took off. But that was supposed to be a tourist destination. The reason why is a number of people who come to South Florida who visit Bayside. So something's not adding up about Hard Rock. Everybody wants dirt. Everybody wants control of Hard Rock, including former city commissioners who maybe they're looking into or they had looked into, because it's such a cash cow. And I don't understand why the Seminoles would bail and why the Hard Rock brand would leave. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Hard Rock brand is what it used to be when you had all the celebrities who were involved and they would show up and people were buying the Hard Rock T-shirts with the city. But still, there has to be a way to reposition it, and who knows, change the brand, do it, Hard Rock for Gen Z or something. But to give up that dirt, it's really
TikTok.
kind of shocking. Yeah, TikTok. Yeah, do a TikTok. I mean, why couldn't they have not have JV'd with Mr. Messi? Mr. Messi, if you remember, when he first signed with Inter Miami, coming to Miami, he was hawking a chicken sandwich that they sold at the Hard Rock Casino over there on Griffin Road, right by my favorite roti and Jamaican patty joints. How come they didn't do something with Messi? Put in a Messi museum there. Put a Messi menu.
Well,
Something like
no,
that. Something
they
a little
put the Messi experience over there in Regatta Park from that warehouse that they built that they can't figure out what to do with. But look at this site, Peter. You got the rear, the octagon, or what is that? I don't even know how many sides that building has. But then you got this lot right there on the water. There's more activity going on Ken Billions' site than what's going on here. There's more activity going on at the Mercedes-Benz site than what's going on here.
A lot of people have said, if you look on social media, they had to turn that into a museum. We said we need a condo museum in Miami. This should be the place. That entire place should be turned into a cultural center. Let's call it the Ken Billions Cultural Center. Mr. Griffin, write us a check. Write somebody a check. Turn that thing into a philanthropic. On the ground floor, you can still
I thought
talk
that
the
was
booze and the burgers and turn the top into some kind of cultural center.
Rico says put the port gas there. They got to figure out what to do with this Fisher Island thing. There was an op-ed in the paper from one of the partners in that JV over with Related saying, "Oh, eminent domain, it's so awful. It should be the lever of last resort." Well, tell that to the Overtown residents when they built I-95. All right, Pete.
Right through it and right over it. Yep.
Buy, sell, hold. The Hard Rock lease lapse is the beginning of a domino effect in Bayside. I'm selling. I think. Maybe hold, but I'm selling that. They're releasing Bayside. I haven't been there in years, but every time I do go in there, it seems like it's making a swing from the $20 t-shirt shops, and they're actually putting local businesses like the Hooters went under, so they put the Black Market in there, which is a local sports bar, and so they're trying to be a little bit better about tenant selection. I don't think they're looking to redevelop the thing, but I pulled the numbers for retail rents in the central business district area. We're looking at about $53 a foot, but they're more than doubling the footprint over the next several years. So
Interesting.
That's a lot of square footage that they're going to have to lease out.
There's a solution there. Make it a food hall. What about the city of Miami?
The food hall
They're going out to
suck.
No, but the city of Miami is going out to Mel Reese with the city hall because they're going to hawk off or pawn off or give to somebody's brother-in-law the city hall
Paquito
site. Yeah, what?
Paquito, he's an entrepreneur. He's got a lot of businesses.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. Put City Hall at Hard Rock. Put it in there. This way everybody can show up to all the meetings. Everybody would love that. It'd be easy to access. You could take the Metro in, you could go there. But really what it needs to be a museum. It needs to be something that's cultural. And do not give it to somebody's brother-in-law or their mistress. We got too many of those stories going on in Miami
Wait,
over the
wait.
years.
Everybody's somebody's brother-in-law or mistress. All
At
right,
least
I'm a
all the
sell.
length.
I'm a sell.
Yeah,
Where you at on this?
I'm a hold because I don't have all the information yet. There's going to be a piece of information that's going to drop. Typically, when somebody quits because they want to spend time with their family, typically means something bad's coming. So this, to me, is what this is. There's something coming we're not aware of, and so we don't have the complete picture. Therefore, I'd have to be a hold.
All right, Peter's a hold. I'm selling. Alcatraz closed, Alligator Alcatraz, and an American citizen becomes president in Colombia. Does that mean more condos to international buyers? So that there's two competing elements here. And our own Miami realtors, Alfredo Puyol, he's also a buddy of ours over at Compass, but he's the chairman of Miami Realtors, and he says that when Latin America goes left, more people come to Miami. Well, this guy who just became president of Colombia could not be more further from the left than he's a right wing guy. He's a combative, Bukele, mega prison loving, Trump back dude. And Colombia is kind of like in this weird moment regarding security. So I think this actually hurts the Miami real estate market. That's one side of it. But then the Alligator Alcatraz closing. So for anybody who doesn't know, and if you've been living under a rock, let me tell you what Alligator Alcatraz is about, and Peter's going to fill in the blanks. 20,000 detainees, 40% of all ICE arrests happened here in Florida. They went to two places. They went to Alligator Alcatraz and they went to another detention center up north. But now Alligator Alcatraz, despite conflicting reports last week, per the governor, is officially closed. What to do with this? 17,000 acres of wetlands so far west, it bleeds into Collier County, where Ray Finkel's from, Pete. Danielle Levine Cava, our county mayor here, she wants to give it to the National Park Service. Good idea. But what does all of this say about the flood of international buyers? Last year, it was 48% of pre-construction sales. This year, it's 52% of pre-construction sales, 85% of which come from Latin America. So will this closing, coupled with this guy getting elected in Colombia, what does that do to condo sales here?
That's a very good question. First of all, Mayor Cava, you know what you need to do with that dirt, which is Alligator Alcatraz? You should sell it to the Mikasukis. Give it to some group that's outside the purview and cannot be influenced to do a repeat of that travesty that just occurred for the last year or so, where you had a pop-up detention center located 50 miles due west of Brickell City Center, right there on Cayocho or Tamiami Trail, or whatever the hell it is. Please sell it to a group that's got the juice, the power to be able to resist any kind of intimidation coming from Tallahassee or DC or anything like that. So that's my first message to that. In terms of the international sales, so what I was reading about this, the new president of Colombia, he's actually got a place in Pinecrest. He's got 4 kids born in the United States. He has dual citizenship. He's become a citizen in the United States. He's a declared Republican. I guess he's got the backing of President Trump when he was running, but he won by less than 1% from everything I've read. I've watched some videos from people who basically hawk condos and investments in Colombia, whether it be Medellin or it be Cartagena or anywhere else. What they're all saying is, from the business perspective, it's probably going to be a good thing because they're going to try to pull a Doge. They're going to try to level out a lot of the call it socialistic practices, if so, under the current president, the outgoing president, the former president, who was a former guerrilla involved.
Gustavo Petro.
Gustavo Petro. So supposedly what the key is from everybody I watch, and I don't know if these guys know their head from their ass, but what they were saying is the president doesn't matter. This guy's just a prop. He's going to go out there barking about whatever he's barking about. But in reality is the finance minister He's got a very good reputation. I'm not saying Carney of Canada. Remember, he wrote in the Bank of England, but in institutional international circles, the finance minister of Colombia, who is part of this overall pitch by the new president of Colombia, that ultimately is what has the markets calm, and they think there's might be some real prospects, some real upside in Colombia. And you only got so much money. For instance, you want to buy in SpaceX stock when they were going public, you had to dump other stuff. And if Colombia really is going to be the go-go days again, because of, like you said, these massive prisons are going to round everybody up, they're going to get rid of all the crime. Supposedly, Medellin's got the lowest murder rate it's had in 80 years. True or false, I don't know, but this is what they're sort of peddling. So if Colombia is a go-go market, just like remember the Celtic Tiger in Ireland, everybody want to get in there because it was on the upside. You got to wonder, why would Colombians leave to come to Miami if in fact this is going to be the go-go days, and if one of the first calls to the new president of Colombia came from Marco Rubio, showing his support, which was tweeted
Marco.
out. It just sort of suggests to you that maybe the play is, whether it be Colombia or who's to say from everything we're reading, maybe it's in Cuba with a potential takeover of Cuba of all the, the stuff we've heard there, or Venezuela. So you got to think it's going to be detracting away from Miami is what I would say. I'm not a political expert by any means, but just kind of read the tea leaves that are out there. You get a guy out of Pinecrest whose kids are all born here. He becomes a U.S. citizen. He's down there barking out the same type of message as the MAGA, and he wins. So what do you think is going to happen? I think a lot of money is probably going to flow in there because there's opportunities to go in there and really kind of take advantage of what is a fantastic, very entrepreneurial country. And that's why the socialists had their movement, because it is so entrepreneurial, and there's not really a middle class, in my opinion. I've been to Colombia multiple times.
I don't know. This is a hold for me. This is a hold because these are two conflicting stories, right? You got Alligator Alcatraz closing, which is supposed to say, hey, okay, there's less of a chance that you're going to get picked up by these mass goons in a Suburban. They drive Suburbans. I don't know what they drive.
Yep.
Right. But now we got this guy in Colombia. If things are going to be so great there, do you really want to come here where that's still kind of a risk? So yeah, I'm like a whole...
Some of the people I watch send videos, and I encourage everybody to go do it, because what they do is they people who are peddling Colombia have lived, maybe some of them are from Colombia, they've lived in Miami, they lived in the United States, they've gone back there. It kind of, you remember Panama like 15 years ago? Panama was the place. They were peddling no property taxes, things like that, to try to get foreign money in, foreign investment. So some of the people I watch, they're anticipating year over year, and this is hyperbole, they're anticipating a 30% bump in valuations of condos in popular areas, whether it be Medellin or Cartagena or even potentially like Bogota in Colombia.
But this doesn't detract from the fact that many Latin Americans who come here, they're not necessarily purchasing these condos to move here. It's more of a financial security thing, typically speaking. But if you look at the broader condo market down here, condo values fell roughly 10% in 2025. Not quite your 40, but we're getting there. So worse since 09, right?
Poco.
But you still have the assessments. We're looking down barrel of assessments. You got underfunded reserves. The new Fannie and Freddie rule require the reserves to go up to 15% from 10. Not like anybody was enforcing it anyway. Limited reviews. Ciao, sayonara, because we got full reviews now, meaning that it might be a rubber stamp still. It still might be a rubber stamp for lenders, but they actually do have to stamp it, which brings accountability into the whole equation, right? So maybe from a financial security perspective, this might be a good time for a Colombian to come in and say, hey, this is an opportunity for me to bargain hunt. Come in here, go into that central business district. Are we past 24 months? I feel like we've been at 24 months inventory for a while. Is it 26, 27, 28 yet?
I haven't looked, but what I have looked at, Daniel, and I don't know if you can pull it up, what I use is O&A.com. O&A. Reason I bring it up is the U.S. dollar is surging. As the dollar gets stronger, that's not good news, especially buyers coming in from Latin America. the cost of coming to this World Cup and paying the 250 to park, and what I think the Colombian tickets last I saw, Colombia Portugal, which I think is Saturday. Some of the ballpark they were $3,800 minimum in order to get in.
Whoa.
And if the dollar is going up, that's just adding to it. So potentially, who knows? Maybe there's a play. And if this is the case, I wouldn't be surprised you see some developers out of Miami going down that way. George Perez has done in the past. Carlos Roso's done in the past.
Yeah, but I've heard them say that they would never do it again. I've seen Rosso
go abroad to try to.
I've heard Rosso talk about doing development down in I think it was Argentina, because he's Argentinian, and he goes, it ain't worth it, man. Shiny object, and these are guys who sell shiny objects.
Yes. Well, I mean, I don't know if you could take a look at the currency. I would do it myself, but I don't. My contacts. But take a look at the dollar to the peso, go year over year, or even go basically since January. You're probably going to see that the dollar is strengthened. And if the dollar is strengthened, keep in mind, Colombia's got a certain visa, I've been told, where once you're long in a tooth enough, you have the ability to retire there. And part of the criteria is how much do you got coming in terms of a pension monthly? And it's ballpark like $1,500, and they clear the way. From what I've been told, to go ahead and spend your time there. So they are, Colombians they're very good business people. They've really been going after foreign investment, and this might really open the door for it. So can you pull up the Colombian peso versus the dollar, or the dollar versus?
I got it pulled up for you right there, baby.
All right, yeah, no context. Tell me what it is now. Tell me what it was in January.
All right, right now it looks like we're at about 3,500 pesos to a dollar. Back in January, it was pushing 4,000.
Okay. So
no, that was a year ago. I'm sorry. That was a year ago.
All right, so a year ago, a Colombian would come here and
back in January it was at 3,600 pesos to a dollar.
So that means somebody coming from the United States going to Colombia, they would get 3,600.
They would get 3,600, and now you're going to get 30. Now you're going to get. Well, no, it's at 34. A year ago, it pushed 4,000 though.
Pushed 4,000 a year ago. So, and that's a dollar will return that. So the dollar's actually weakened then.
Right.
Against the peso. Can you pull up the euro just for shits and giggles?
Shits and giggles. There we go.
$1. So coming in with a $1 and converting it into, or no, do it the other way. A euro converted it into a dollar. So somebody coming from Europe.
So €1 is $1.14. No, it's got to be the other way around.
So the Tartan Army, when they came here with a euro, they were getting $1.14 US.
Right.
In South Beach, when they were sucking back all the booze and they were going to Ball and Chain and Cayocho for their 1 mile walk to the stadium. And then what would it have been a year ago?
A year ago, it was not much of a difference. $1.17.
$1.17. Okay, so it hasn't changed then. Well, if you look,
it's ebbed and flowed.
Yeah. But with the dollar though, if you look at the indices, they have been going up. I don't know what the disconnect is. Maybe my information's dated. Maybe something's happening. But there has been a lot of talk about a strengthening U.S. dollar. So hell, I mean, if it's a weakening U.S. dollar, that's going to play to our advantage in Miami. And the other thing we got going for us is you got the Dubai fiasco when the U.S. launched an attack against Iran February the 27th, and Iran shot back and popped the bubble of what was this insulated area of being Dubai. You could do whatever the hell you wanted. That's now off the list. Hong Kong, which was one of these markets, off the list because of the Chinese and the two systems, one country.
No, you can go to Singapore now. I mean, it's only on the other side of the planet.
It's basically just Singapore and Miami is all there is. So that's
you can't chew chewing gum over there. And Wynwood walls, they would get lashed if you had Wynwood walls over there in Singapore. They'd have to buy a whole Amazon truck full of whips over there.
But the Singaporean food halls to die for. By the way, a Singaporean ice cream sandwich. I don't know if anybody likes ice cream sandwiches. You know, it's like you buy at the grocery store. You got 2 pieces of chocolate with a piece with vanilla inside. You know how they do a ice cream sandwich in Singapore?
Wow.
There's a guy with like a push bike with a cooler. You order one. He pulls out a loaf of bread, white bread. He cuts the damn chunk, almost like a big thing, cuts the ice cream off, puts it between the bread, and that's how they hand it to you. They say that's where it originated from. I don't know, but it looked very good. I'm not a sugar person, so I didn't try it. I was too busy sucking down all of the other stuff with spices, but not ice cream.
You buy, sell, hold on this, Pete. Alcatraz closed. American citizen. Yeah, wow, I fumbled that one. American citizen becomes president in Colombia. More condos to international buyers. Does that math?
That math does not math whatsoever. Boy, I got to be a hold because I don't know how to.
I'm holding.
I don't know how to figure it out. You're a hold as well,
I'm
Daniel?
a hold. It's quite the complex equation there because you have two contradicting things happening. You have, well, a problem that really wasn't a problem. Don't you feel so much safer now that we had Alligator Alcatraz? $1 billion in government contracts and all these wetlands just got totally messed up. But I feel so much safer now.
Absolutely, so much. Well, I feel a lot more safer too because of the fight night at the White House. We were able to show off how much strength we have.
You're such big muscles. All right. Coral Gables walks back over the youth center, and it should stay there. Peter, do you know anything about this? Because this is right in my backyard, and shit, I played baseball, soccer. I was the goalie because I was the big kid, so they said go stand over there and just make sure no balls get behind you. But hey, so the youth center, and I'm going to bring it up for the gang on the map just so everybody can see. The youth center is quite the piece of real estate over here in Coral Gables. George Merrick's backyard. It's this blue highlighted piece here. So what's happening here is back in the day, so this officially it's called the War Memorial Youth Center. Why? Because it's a war memorial to like that really big war, World War II, back in the 40s. A group of folks got together, they purchased this, and they gave it to the city. But they gave it to the city with the big, fat clause, right? And that clause said, if you ever change the name or the purpose of this thing, of this site here, it's going to revert back to us. And the city of Coral Gables came out and said, well, it's kind of tired and old and we want to do some things to it, and there's a lot of back and forth. I encourage anybody, if you're even marginally interested and you've been watching the Real Housewives of Cambodia or whatever they got going on now, this is even more reality TV than that because you can't make this stuff up. So Vice Mayor Rhonda Anderson's resolution F3 tells the city manager not to do any major renovation that would force the center to temporarily close. Until, and this is the name of the clause, I'm not an attorney, the legal term is a reverter clause. So a reverter clause is a clause that, what I just said, if they were to change the name or the purpose of this thing, it would revert back to the folks who gave it to the city. Well, over the course of...
Crandon Park, Daniel, is Crandon Park comparable over in Key Biscayne?
Yeah, but I think they actually still retain control of it. That's a good question, Peter. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
So this reverter clause, so this was donated back in 1958 to the city of Coral Gables. Quite a bit of appreciation has happened over that last half century plus. Right? So commissioners and the mayor and everybody gets together and go, well, this reverter clause is kind of one-sided. Guys, that's the point. It's supposed to be one-sided. You signed the contract. You accepted the gift. Don't try to change the rules. And so now Coral Gables has come back and said, you know what? Let's not even touch this. But if you look at this site here, this site is in the middle, in the heart, in the beating heart of Coral Gables. I zoom out, it still looks big, guys. It's about probably, an eighth of the size of the Granada Golf Course. Just to give you an idea, it's this blue highlight here. The Granada Golf Course is this long shape up here, and the Biltmore Golf Course and the Riviera Golf Courses are to the west and to the south. But this is the youth center, and it is for the youths. So Fat Danny, when he's 10 years old, can try to pretend to play soccer. And it's really, it's integral to the community. It's part of the reason why Coral Gables is Coral Gables. Now, if a developer wants to go in there and do something else, Well, they can't. At least by the city of Coral Gables, at least with this reverter clause in place. And now what the city argues is that if they were to be in breach of this agreement that they were agreed upon 60 some odd years ago, 70 years ago, it would revert back to that association. They claim that association is invalid because they even let the association status lapse. The association technically didn't exist for an extended period of time, and then they got back together, and then they said, okay, we're this association again, and if you mess this up, this would revert back to us. But if it does revert back to them, Peter, there's nowhere in any documentation that says it's restricted to this use. So if it would revert back to that association, they, in fact, could go redevelop it. So everybody's walking on eggshells here to try to figure out effectively how to get this thing redeveloped. It's just who's gonna do it? Do I think it should be redeveloped? Absolutely freaking not. But that's where we're at here.
That is fascinating. Makes me think about when they shut down Biltmore Way, Daniel. I don't remember that. If you remember that,
I don't.
June, right in front of City Hall. From City Hall, I think they do like a holiday park there. Just
the Christmas park. Yeah, right up here.
Yeah,
Christmas
here. Park. Correct. Yeah. So they actually shut down that street, and then Roxy Bolton got involved way back in the day. I think Donald Sleznick, he was either mayor or he ran off of that to become mayor. They shut down that street. I used to work in the little blue building right next to City Hall, just to the left of it, just to the west of it. So they shut that thing down. They started turning it all into a park. And because there's so much firepower, i.e. cash, as well as professional service people in and around there, they actually took a park. It had been created. They ripped it back up and they restored it back to its original state. So I guess where I'm going with this is it doesn't matter what the final decision is here. You got so many wealthy people with strong opinions who have access to lawyers, and some of them might be lawyers. This thing's going to be battled out for over and over and over. And ultimately what will probably happen, they'll probably send it to a referendum. There'll probably be some sort of vote. They'll ask the members of the city, at least if that's what happened with Biltmore Way, when they went ahead and shut it down, if memory serves
well,
me correct.
maybe we'll have to get property appraiser Thomas Regalado to put a number on it. He's been very busy having to appraise things these days. God bless him. I mean, having to work all day. He appraised the Trump Library site. That was a boondoggle. And now he's in this. I mean, not to detract too much from this conversation, but Regalado's in a lose game with himself regarding this Fisher Island fuel terminal thing, because if he prices it too low, then Related Group and George Perez and his partners are not going to be very happy that they spent $180 million on something that's not worth $180 million. And if he goes too high, it would be political suicide with capital PS in front of it. He's got a tough job.
He's got a tough job. Is there any reference to the group, the association, the people who are kind of behind this, the entity that ultimately it would revert back to? And I don't know how it would revert back to, because if the association disappeared,
it disappeared, and the city argued they disappeared, and now they came back.
And now they came back. So I don't know what, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how that stuff plays out. If it's dormant, can it be in hibernation and then come back? I don't know. These are just some of the questions I'm asking. But who does it list any names? Are there any historical people who were involved with originally raising the cash?
So Kirk Menendez actually ran the association.
Okay.
So Lago city official, blah 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 blah. Coach Kirk grew up at the center, ran the association, and two commissioners, Castro and Fernandez, openly called it political retaliation and a vendetta. And the city used a pro-Lago anonymous blog, everybody knows it, so sorry, Aesop's Gables, as a basis to launch a formal investigation.
Wow. So this is basically a pissing match.
This is a pissing match. This is a pissing match.
So take it out a step further. Is there anything else that's controversial? I'm just thinking about the art of the deal, where you go ahead and you create this issue, and then therefore you're able to negotiate something out. Is there anything else that's very contentious going on right now in the
right across the street, perhaps, like the charter school that they want to put across the street?
That could be a nice compromise. That would be a very nice compromise. Who's putting in this school?
Somerset Academy. They're one of those charter school franchises.
Okay. Because it kind of reminded me when you said the school. Kind of reminded me of the Centeners with their place over there by Cush, right on the cusp of
Yeah. They
Wynwood.
wanted to put the sports complex.
Yeah, on the city of Miami Park. So interesting. Yeah, this is obviously multi-dimensional. There's more here than we know. And what I would tell everybody to do is just grab that popcorn, Daniel. Sit back and wait. And this is going to be a pissing match. That's probably going to be well worth watching. It'll probably lead to different results in the upcoming election. I don't know who's running, who is running, who's not running. But this is the type of thing. This is a small town feud with a bunch of people with big bank accounts. So I cannot wait to see it. And if anybody needs an expert witness, I'm available for hire. I don't mind wetting my beak on this one because this one's going to be going on forever and ever and ever.
That $1,000 an hour, right, Pete?
No, I'm only 900.
Oh, 900. Oh, it's a BOGO. It's Prime Day, everybody. I'm a hold.
Yeah, but
Tell me.
I'd love to get involved just for the pissing match part of it because I think this is probably gonna be legendary. I sense a book coming, Daniel. This might be a book. This should be a documentary. Hey, Billy Corbin, you and Alfred,
Billy,
come on out. This is the one to take a look at next. It sounds like.
Call the wambulance for commissioners crying over Live Local. We talk about Live Local a lot on this show. A lot. So Miami City Commission voted unanimously, it's all of them, to start hunting for ways to fight the state's Live Local Act. Local blog, Gadfly, that we like to look at, Political Cortadito, written by Ladra, put it, the irony is thick enough to build a 40-story tower on because the guy leading the charge, Damian Pardo, helped open the density floodgates not long ago. So a resolution sponsored by Pardo and co-sponsored by Chair Christine King directs City Attorney George Wysong, who is also the highest paid employee of the city of Miami, just wanted to let everybody know that, to study every angle: constitutional claims, home rule, due process, improper preemption, unfunded mandates. No lawsuit just yet, but he's got to, well, like Regalado, he's got to show up and work because he's been mandated to do this. For everybody who doesn't know what the Live Local Act is, SB 102, signed by DeSantis back in 2023, if a development project, sets aside at least 40% of units as affordable for 30 years, it can blow past local density, height, and use limits on land zoned commercial, industrial, and mixed use, and skip public hearings and neighborhood notice, and they get big tax breaks. So the legislature up in Tallahassee keeps on making this stronger. Literally every year it gets stronger. Banning local moratoriums, expanding the zoning districts where it applies, even letting the winning side, this is a new one, the winning side in a Live Local lawsuit can recover attorney's fees. So that'll chill cities from even going after this in court. Because ultimately, if the city loses, it's you and me, baby. Taxpayer money. So this is just the latest chapter in municipalities battling Tallahassee in the White House 250th anniversary UFC match, except it's down here in Florida and it's just in our hearts and minds. Peter, what's going on in Pardo's head? I thought he was pro-development.
It sounds like somebody might be coming to the realization that some of their power might be at risk. I mean, if Live Local basically gives you the ability to bypass, circumvent, go up to Tallahassee and bend a knee in Tallahassee and bypass all of the local political intrigue, doesn't a commissioner lose their power? I mean, after all, what are city commissioners really sort of peddling? They're peddling the power to be able to decide, is this project make sense, does it not make sense? And what's the biggest driver? It's real estate development. Who donates the most money? And I'm guessing it's real estate related.
It's developers.
It's exactly. So if you suddenly don't need city commissioners and you can go bend the knee up in Tallahassee or get something written into the language so you can move the urban development boundary line, why wouldn't you just go to Tallahassee? Why would you play in, all the games down here? I mean, look at Genting. Genting way back in the day, they bought that piece of dirt from the Miami Herald. They tried to play a local.
Couldn't do it.
Play in Tallahassee. And basically everybody basically it just took their cash and didn't pass anything. Well, it sounds like we got a pissing match going on. We got a power fight going on between the locals and the state of Florida capital up in Tallahassee, including property taxes. All of this is basically the line in the sand. Are locals going to have the power to make the decisions, or are they going to rely on their representatives, who many people do not have a clue who their local representative is up in Tallahassee, whether it be state whether it be the House or the Senate? They know their city commissioners. They don't know these people. So you almost got to wonder, if you do have a problem with live local and you're not able to make changes, maybe you ought to give up the city commission position and run for state legislature, because that sounds like that's where the cash cow is probably going to be.
So, Pete, I want to throw a little thought exercise in here. Raymond Katz, RK Centers, right?
Yes.
He owns that Sears site over on Coral Way, which is a proposed live local project. But
Coral Way 37th. Yep.
Yeah, right
yep.
there on Coral Way and 37th. But from what I'm able to gather, he has really no intention of developing it. He got it entitled for live local, and now he's trying to hawk off that entitled project for about $100 million. Now, what happens if the playbook is, hey, I'm just going to go get this entitled from live local, since I don't have to deal with any of you guys over there at the city commission. I'm going to get it entitled, and then I'm going to sell it. But then what happens if he sells it for $100 million and then the city sues and takes away the entitlement? So now all of a sudden, I bought this thing with every intention of building these workforce housing units, and now the city says I can't do it? This could be very interesting, because RK Centers isn't the only guy playing that I'm just going to build and get it, get it entitled and sell it playbook. There's other people doing that. And so if you got institutional money coming down here looking for investments, looking for development sites, that's not a very good reputation to have. Talk about uncertainty. Because how long does it take to build one of these projects? 3, 4, 5 years?
Yeah, I typically say if it's a condo, the whole thing is 7, 8, 9, 10 years. The whole process.
But like a multifamily.
Yeah. It's typically, what do they say? A floor every 10 days is the way you average it out.
But what happens if the city comes back and says, actually, that live local thing, no, you can't do that anymore?
Yeah, and then it'll come down to, is it grandfathered in or not? I mean,
they would have to grandfather it in, right?
Now, I think slowly, and again, I'm not an attorney, but there have been some cases. So the legal precedent seems to be it, but it's early. There's not a lot of pushback. This is a situation that I would compare to kind of like this, and I'm going to put it in like my world or my terms. So if you ever buy into a pre-construction condo project and it comes online, you can do one of two things. One, you can do everything nice and slow and properly, and make sure you got everything crossed and everything. Or two, possession's 9/10 of the law, so you go ahead and you do everything, and then you say, well, I'm sorry. Sylvester Stallone type, when he went ahead and put in his jetty over there by Vizcaya. So, typically new construction, when there's chaos going on in the building, that's when you want to put everything up, because nobody can keep track of everything. So, I mean, if it were me and I was looking at live local and I went ahead and I got the entitlements, I would probably put my foot on the gas and try to get it done ASAP, because I think if you take your time and you wait for it all to sort of play out, things could change. Daniel, you said every single year they're changing live local. So, and then does your entitlement, does it exist? How long does it go on? When does it ever expire? Is it transferable? I mean, there's all these little things potentially that could change. Why? Because the legislators can be lobbied, and they get together for 60 days, 90 days, once a year in Q1, into Q2, maybe a special session, because you need to put something in place. But generally speaking, if I was doing live local, I would have my foot on the gas. Otherwise, I'd sort of sit back and wait, because I think there's going to be a lot more pushback coming. It's kind of the way I see it. And if Commissioner Pardo in City of Miami, if he's starting to bitch and moan about this, other cities are doing it, and now it's all going to probably get jammed up. And when it's jammed up, everybody sits on the sidelines. You do not want an eminent domain situation, kind of like the Fisher Island fuel tank situation. You buy a piece of dirt, you think you're going to do what you do. Lo and behold, we're going to thwart this, and then county says, you know what, we're going to eminent domain it. We're going to jam that thing up. That thing is not marketable anymore because anybody stepping in, they're going to have to cut a deal with the county in order to buy the dirt. And if they have to do that, that means the price has to come down. So, this is the risk. This is Biscayne 21. You buy a condo, you change some things, everything's good. You get a group of owners who are probably, I'm speculating, are funded by private equity to go ahead and sue and drag the thing out, and now the whole thing's upside down. So, like they say in Tampa, this is tits up. You don't know what the future is. Therefore, you gotta, if you do it, just pull the trigger, put it up like our boy Sylvester Stallone did 20-something years ago, and he put up a jetty in a place he should not have put it up, and then he wrote a check saying, I'm sorry. But if you're not willing to put your foot on the gas, I think you probably need to, step back and let the others play.
Better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission, I guess.
I mean, it seems like it. And if Pardo's starting to get on the horse that, hey, listen, we got to strip away the power, we got to do this and that. I mean, I think it's kind of a tell. Is he out? I don't even know what's going on with the election in November. Is he running?
I don't know.
Maybe campaign contributions are not flowing, or I don't know.
It is worth mentioning that, we were talking about Thomas Regalado, property appraiser for the county. He's got, despite the entitlements, he's still got the Rain Cat site, the Sears site, at $38.5 million. I mean, Regalado, what did you just lowball and everything? Do you know that there's a live local entitlement on this site? Or is there? Do you know something that I don't know, that nobody else knows? Because this guy's trying to hawk it off for $100 million with this entitled live local project.
Well, remember, you do have that, what is it, just value, where they have to strip 15% right off the top because of fees, commissions, other things like that. I mean, there's a bunch of convoluted ways of looking at it, but generally speaking, whenever I look at a valuation coming from the county, I'm always assuming it's 15% too low. I'm always assuming the real market value.
15 or 50?
No, 1.5. But you're saying it ought to be 5.0.
I mean,
and you're not far off.
I got thoughts and prayers, George Perez and companies. $180 million is an awful lot of money to pay for that. I'm just saying, maybe we're guys, we got a close finger on the pulse of what's going on Fisher Island, or at least we're trying to have one, but only time will tell what happens with that. But I got a buy, sell, hold on you for call the wambulance for commissioners crying over live local, Peter. I'm buying it. Call the wambulance. Let them whine. Guys, you had your opportunity. Yeah. You had it. You had it, and you literally forced Tallahassee's hand because couldn't get your shit together as far as permitting. Worth mentioning, there are 80 permitted live local projects going on down here right now. 80. It's a lot. You got 40-story towers going up in Wynwood, Peter.
Announced? These are announced, or these actually got shovels in the ground?
No, permitted.
Permitted.
Permitted. Wow. It's a lot.
Yeah, because I had heard something. A lot of them had been announced, but in terms of actually
two are under construction. Two are under construction.
That's more like what I heard. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. You got a 55-story one proposed in Overtown that Commissioner King, and I quote, couldn't say anything about because it's live local. They literally, I mean, they can't say anything about it. Which I understand. The pendulum swings both ways, and maybe there's a happy medium, and this shouldn't be all the way on this side right now. But it seems like Tallahassee is going to have something to say about municipal development going forward.
I am not one to piss on everybody's parade, but I'm going to do it anyways.
No.
If you got this many live locals coming. And you got President Trump, at some point he's going to sign off on this bipartisan legislation related to housing and limiting how many places institutional buyers can have. You got to think there's going to be downward pressure on pricing. You just have to think because of the amount of rentals that went up. I'm just saying, everybody, it's all kind of interrelated. It's interconnected, and that's something to pay attention to. So live local, in reality, I don't know what it does for valuations. I don't know that anybody studied it. What impact does it have on valuations? Because if I can go and I can rent cheaper than somewhere else, or like in Daniel, in your circumstance, what you were talking about with a friend, or you were helping him out with a deal, to go through with the affordable rental or whatever the process was.
The market rate rents are cheaper.
Yeah. So I don't think we know the repercussions of this. I mean, apparently we know what's going on politically and the power structure, but I wonder what the real market effects are. Based on your example, and then based on everything going on here. If that many live locals are coming, that's 40% in each project, and if every project is 300 units, that's a lot more reasonably placed. So then, what does that do to other places? Does it put downward pressure on it? I mean, a lot of questions out there. A lot of
A
questions.
lot of units going to be built. Buy, sell, hold, Peter.
Um, I I would have to be a buy. I'm going to
Me
be a buy because
too.
I do like to see the. I want to see pushback in Tallahassee. I just think it's good. It's good for form.
All right, folks. We got Peter didn't even sell once today. Am I writing this rundown wrong? You got a bunch of yellow and green on the board, Peter.
I don't have my contacts in. I can't see. Who knows? Maybe you're just writing down whatever. Maybe it's like one of these votes allegedly that occurred at the Club of Brickell Bay. I don't
Allegedly.
even know what
Yeah,
the hell's
I'm
being
your
signed off
proxy
on.
vote. I'm your proxy vote. Everybody, that
Exactly.
is Buy, Sell, Hold Miami, episode number 58. It is June the 26th. Happy 4th of July next weekend. But we will see you next week and every Friday after that at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on all your favorite social platforms. Later, guys.